Well, it's one thing to make a charge, and it's another thing to understand what is behind the charge. By irresponsible spending, what they're really talking about is spending. And of course, one can always reduce expenditures for education in Dallas. This can be done, and every member of the board knows it. But of course, you would have to reduce teacher salaries. You would have to throw out the kindergarten system. You would have to make drop out the new dropout prevention program. All of the fine improvements that are now being made in education would have to be discarded.
When you say the Committee for Good Schools as opposed to spending, are you accusing them of being regressive?
When you say they, you really ought to be saying he. Because the Committee for Good Schools, I suspect, can hold its annual meeting in a phone booth.
When you say he, who are you referring to?
Mr. John Stemmons.
But Wright told me in our telephone conversation this morning that in addition to the military cutbacks in personnel, there may be 2 or 3 actual base closings here in the state. One prominent possibility, reportedly discussed by Defense Department evaluators, is the Dallas Naval Air Station. The base was commissioned in May of 1941 and has been both an active and a reserve training base. At this time, there are around 750 Navy and Marine personnel on active duty status based here, responsible for the training of some 1,500 reservists. On the other side of the base is a 136 Air Refueling Squadron of the Air National Guard. If the axe does fall here, it probably would erase all but the Guard unit, or, in the interest of economy, the tanker squadron could be transferred to nearby Carswell Air Force Base in Fort Worth. The official announcement will come sometime Friday afternoon from Defense Secretary Melvin Laird.
Well, as a member of this community, I naturally do not like to see things that cutbacks or people transferred or any situation that causes people to leave our area. However, with regard to housing, I think it could definitely be an asset in that we do have a shortage of available housing for our people now due to the cost of construction, the inflation situation, tight money, and so on. And it would make much more housing available on equity transactions, that is, people selling property and new buyers assuming their loans at lower interest rates. And I think it will afford many people an opportunity to buy a nice home they're maybe living in an apartment now.
To answer that question and reading this article in the paper here, this is the first notice we've had from this morning. Our chamber, the Fort Worth Chamber of Commerce, is vitally interested in our government's efforts to reduce expenditures. There's a basic policy, and although we're not very happy with the the effect that it has on our Carswell Air Force Base and our friends out there, it no doubt is all part of this national interest, and we accept these efforts to reduce expenditures.
With good low-cost housing difficult to find in many cases, Americans are turning more and more to the mobile home. Mobile home sales have skyrocketed in recent years as length and width restrictions have been eased, allowing more floor space for family living. With the increase in sales, it stands to reason there must be some place to park these homes on wheels, and that is the basis for a very controversial issue in Fort Worth. Fort Worth, like other cities, is attempting to regulate and plan for the proper development of mobile home parks. A proposed ordinance which covers that development is soon to be considered by the City Council, and that ordinance is under attack. Spokesmen for the Mobile Home Association of Tarrant County say the ordinance, if adopted as written, would force the closing of nearly 90% of the existing parks strictly because they were built long before this planning device was conceived. Most of the controversy comes from the installation of services and restrictions on spacing, ground clearance, and public utilities. The Mobile Home Association feels that in most cases, the park should comply with laws governing other single-family dwelling developments. They feel they are being discriminated against in areas where they should not be, and they feel existing state laws which govern the mobile home construction should be considered in writing this new ordinance. Action by City Council is not expected soon. An appointed committee has just reported to the Council the 16th of last month. This is Gene Thomas, Channel 8 News in Fort Worth.
Almost everyone has heard of Judge Roy Bean and the law west of the Pecos. Some have even heard of Judge Richburg and the law west of the Trinity. This is Woodland Hills, where they have the law west of Marks Branch. Marks Branch is a small stream which wanders through this little highway town of some 339 people on the outskirts of southwest Dallas. Also running through Woodland Hills for a distance of 9/10 of a mile is Highway 67. The story here revolves around this 9/10 of a mile, a radar unit, 3 part-time marshals, and a lot of irate motorists who complain of a strange type of roadside justice. One of those irate motorists is James Tingle, who runs a trailer manufacturing business on Highway 67. I understand you have been stopped by the Woodland Hills Police Department on a couple of occasions.
Yes, sir, they stopped me 3 times. The first time was for a damaged automobile that I'd had, and I was issued a citation for no license plate. During this time that he issued me this citation, he cursed several times in front of my wife, which I didn't appreciate at all.
I understand you have observed the techniques and methods of the Woodland Hills officers in setting up their radar unit. In fact, that they set it up out in front of your driveway. What did you find? What have you seen?
Well, they work 1 or 2 days a week, maybe 3 days at the most, and that they'll work about 1 or 2 hours of the evening, and they just set up out here and run about as many tickets as they can run during that time and then leave. At one evening out here, I observed them stopping cars on average of 1 every 6 minutes.
A number of things about the Woodland Hills traffic operations seem to irritate people who have complained to me. One is the fact that Woodland Hills officers often work in their street clothes and chase down motorists in their personal cars. Another is that upon stopping someone, they collect bail money on the side of the road. Still another is the fact that a 16-year-old boy has been helping the marshal man the speed traps. One officer from another department told me he once saw the boy wearing a gun, but that was some time ago before all the complaints began. Woodland Hills officials say they're only trying to slow down the traffic on the narrow, heavily traveled highway. However, it doesn't appear from my observations that Woodland Hills really has that much of a traffic problem. Over the past 4 years, there have been only about 10 accidents a year on Highway 67 in Woodland Hills, and most of those were minor. Meanwhile, while the Woodland Hills law enforcement team wrote tickets, someone broke into the City Hall the other night and took all the office machines. This is Tommy Ayers reporting for Channel 8 News.
could not say. I wouldn't want to prejudge what the judge would want to judge for himself as judge.
Did you make any discussion on personnel matters, and does your adoption of the report make any reference to specific firings of the well-known people that have made it?
No, it does not. It does not.
How about this note from the Committee of 17 that came in by way of Daisy White? Was this discussed during the closed meeting?
Yes.
And
yes.
what was this?
Well, we're trying to. This has to do with the election of target area people and the selection of the community organization. We're trying to work out some specifics on that to be responsive to that.
There's been a lot said about Ed Polk and Ruth Jefferson. During your closed hearings, has this come into the conversation?
Not at all. Not at all. Not a bit.